I'm Hilary LaFay, and we are going to grout the pieces that you made in your mosaic workshop. In your kit, you got a pair of rubber gloves. You're going to want to put those on first. Grout has a lot of chemicals in it. It's also very drying to the skin. And if you're using grout with different colors, those tints can really stay on your skin for a while. Failing at putting my gloves on. All right. You got a Ziploc with plenty of grout in. You're going to want to take a container that's totally disposable. I use Tupperware that's missing a lid or something out of the recycling bin. You're going to dump most of your grout in here, but not all of it. You want to make sure that you leave a little just in case you add a little bit too much water, that you have some in reserve to be able to fix that. So it's about a half a cup in the bag total. I'm going to leave maybe 1/8 of a cup left in the Ziploc. You're going to add water, and this can really vary based on the humidity. So with about a half a cup of grout, I might be using approximately 1/4 of a cup of water, but I'm going to just eyeball it. So I pour a little bit in. You want to be careful. If you're mixing a large amount of grout, you should be wearing some protection over your mouth so that you do not inhale any of the dust that might kick up. So I want to make sure that I am fully mixing it in here. And just like if you're cooking, you want to make sure that your ingredients are fully integrated and that you don't have any clumps in there. And I added almost a little bit too much water. It's a little bit wet. So I'm going to take just a sprinkle of my reserve grout, put that on there. And mix that in. All right, that consistency is pretty good. You don't want it to be dry and crumbly, and you don't want it to be wet like a milkshake. It could be a really, really thick milkshake. So now I'm going to start on grouting my piece. I'm going to pop out this insert. If you're doing a frame, you might be doing something totally different. And I'm going to start by grouting in between all of the surfaces and ignoring the edges. I'm using one of these just scraps of mat board to help push that grout into all the seams between the glass. And you want to make sure you get everywhere. Don't worry about it being on the surface of the glass. In one of our later steps, we'll clean that off. Around my star, which is raised a little bit, I'm going to actually use my finger to make sure that I get it in all of those areas. And even if you're not using something that's this obvious, the height difference, a lot of times there's major changes between different pieces of glass or even in the same sheet of glass as far as thicknesses go. So I've got my surface done. Now I'm going to go around And I kind of take a clump of the grout, and what you're doing is you're creating a bevel on the edge. So I want to have a nice angle that goes from the surface of this glass to the edge of the wood here. Run my finger along to smooth it, but very lightly. I just want to make sure that it's consistent. You can use the tool to do this, but I tend to prefer to use my fingers at anything that I can. I've made it back around on that side. Now I need to do my inner line, and this can be a little bit trickier. If you're doing a frame, you're going to want to do it from the inside. Notice that I covered up my work surface. You really want to prevent grout from getting anywhere that you would eat. Anywhere, you don't want it to be on something that it could get permanently adhered to, so you want to put down newspapers or scrap paper. All right, so that's my first step is complete already. It's pretty wet, so I can go through and kind of smear some of the chunks around, but you don't need to worry about it too much. So I'm going to leave it alone and let it dry. Really depends on what season it is, if you've got any humidity issues, but at least 10 minutes. All right, after you've taken about a 10-minute break, you can come back and you'll see that it's starting to dry a little bit on the surface. You want to make sure that you kind of babysit it, is what I say. So now I'll kind of go through, get a little bit more cleaned off, and now you can use the sponge that you have in your kit. You are not going to add water. We figured out the perfect formula with the grout that we mixed. So you're going to actually just use the sponge to help you to start cleaning it off. And it's still going to smear just a little bit. I'm going to go around all of these edges, make sure that they are nice and consistent. If I had anything on the surface of the glass, I had some paint or some Sharpie that was on this blue glass, then I can use the other side to clean that off. And that's about all you're doing for that step. Then you want to walk away and take a break again. And now you can see how there's a haze on here that I can easily rub off. It is nice and dry, the grout, and it is really ready for the final time to go through. I say final, but I tend to do this over and over again. Just can get a little shinier and a little shinier. You can go through and just make sure that you don't see that haze anywhere on the glass. any of these materials that you've used for grouting, you're either going to want to throw away or use exclusively for grouting, and that's it. You can do one last check around your edges because your grout is still in the container, is still ready to help with patching any holes or any inconsistencies. But there you go. And the grouting is complete. You can now complete the sides and the back, maybe with paint. You can seal it with a polyurethane sealant, and that will really strengthen your grout. If it's something that maybe is going to be a place that's going to get bumped into, then you're going to want to do that. And that completes your tutorial on grouting your mosaicked piece. All right, I hope you enjoyed your workshop. Thank you.